All right, welcome into the podcast. Rob Thomas, Paul Doucette of Matchbox 20. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for your
Thanks for
time.
having us.
It's good to see you both. I know we're doing this over Zoom, and I thought you were going to be in the same location. Where are you both right now?
Oh no, we're New York and LA.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in New York as well.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Look, as we record this, we're probably a month out or just under a month from the tour starting, and then obviously the weeks following the album will come out. With everything that's going on, let's start with that 2017 tour and what's happened since. Let's not make this about the pandemic, but this will be the first time you guys.
I was about to say, haven't you heard?
No, this is news to me. It's
talk.
This is like the first time you guys have been together since that 2017 tour, and now we're only a few weeks out. Is this a daunting thing for you guys, or are you guys just raring to go?
Oh, I think we're pretty raring to go. It's been a minute, and we've there's always an excitement when you make a new record too, that you're just like, oh, you feel like a band again. And we haven't made one in a long time, and we haven't toured in a while. We've done a show here and there.
We did a show last August.
Yeah.
And it was even more of a proper show than we thought. Like, we stepped out thinking it was going to be like a couple thousand people, and we didn't know until we walked on stage that it was like 20,000 people. And I say, like, for the first two songs, maybe a song and a half, I had this one moment where I felt like Ricky Bobby, and I didn't know what to do with my hands. I was just like, do I do big arms, or like, look, I'm doing Jesus pose. Like, what do I do? And then all of a sudden, it clicks.
Who dropped the ball? How did you not know you were playing to that many people?
Does someone carry the ball?
It was a festival in Newfoundland, so we weren't really knowing what to expect. And somebody literally said on there, like, festival, like 5,000 or 6,000 people or something. We're like, all right, this is fun. I mean, dude, don't get me wrong, 5,000 or 6,000 people is a blast. So, we were excited about it. But there was like, when we stepped out, and we're just like, the point is, like, at the end of that moment, we walk off stage, and I was just like, oh man, this feels so good. Like, this just feels right.
Congrats on this album. I've been listening to it like all morning, and I don't really have like any comment on it other than I was just smiling the whole fucking time.
Oh, awesome.
That's the common thing.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a 90s kid, so I mean, I've grown up on Matchbox 20. Again, the first album in 10 years. It's just so good to have you guys back. But if we can go back to that 2017 tour for a second, I know that was obviously the 20th anniversary of the debut record, and a lot of interviews at the time, you guys said, like, this is purely a celebration tour. We're not thinking or talking about new music. Was that a ploy, or were you guys being genuine at the time? There was no new music coming.
Honestly, I mean, to be totally honest, like, from my point of view, up until about a month before I flew to New York to start working on this record, I thought we would never make new music again. I had gotten to a point in my life where I was okay with that. I had sort of moved my life to do something different, and I was like, but we get to play, we get to go out, and we've had a great run. We still have a lot of people that want to see us play live. We have a great time doing it, and I couldn't, like, I'm thankful for that, and that's great. And I didn't think we would ever make new music again, and then here we are.
Yeah, it wasn't on the, like, for me, it felt like there was this, 2020 and 2021, we were supposed to go out in 2020.
Sure.
Everything had, like, everybody was in the same boat. Everything was locked down. Nobody was doing anything. So we didn't feel like we were letting anybody down. It just felt like everybody was kind of in a bad spot. And then in 2022, I know me, and I don't want to speak for Pookie, but I feel like maybe Pookie at the time, because of things in our personal life, we didn't feel ready yet. Like, I didn't feel safe to go out. I didn't feel like we were ready. I was ready to tour. So when postponing that 2022, when everybody else was out, a lot of our friends, a lot of our peers, they were all out there. And it was the first time that I felt really bad. Like, I felt jealous. Like, I wanted to be out there and everybody else was, and there was like a world going on without me. But also I felt like we were letting fans down in a way we just waited and waited and waited. And then when Kyle came up with the idea, I was like, maybe this is a sign that we should start having a conversation about making a full album. it just rang true. As soon as he said it, I was just like, yep. I mean, even though like there was a whole conversation that we had about, we're not making a whole record. That requires a lot of time that maybe personally we weren't ready to put in, but it just like, oh, well, let's do it. And we went in with it with a little trepidation. We started. As soon as we did, it started to sound great. Like we were just like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. I like where this is going. I like where this is going. And then it was just like, we were just full in making a record.
So just to clarify, the album talk really didn't start till the world, to a degree, started getting back to normal.
Yes.
Wow.
100%. There was no record until we had come to the decision that we were not going to go out in 2022 like we had planned. Mm-hmm. That's when, up until that point, there was talk about doing a song or two, and I personally was not as into that idea. And I just kind of said to everybody, I've moved into doing TV and film stuff, and I was doing that, and I was like, I don't want to give up. It took me a while to get to this point. I don't want to give that up to go do a song or two. So I was like, you guys have my blessing. Go off and make stuff, and I'll come out and we'll tour, and it'll be great. Mm. And then 2022, we decided not to go out, and then Kyle kind of started the conversation again about making a record, and that, for me personally, I was like, oh, okay, well, if everyone's talking about making a record, that I can get with.
Mm. And you mentioned there that you guys are so busy outside of Matchbox, and Paul, to your point, you thought there was a time where you guys were not going to make music ever again. Did it ever weigh on your minds that the last Matchbox album was in 2012? Like, did you guys give a shit, or were you so busy with the other stuff that it didn't even dawn on you that, hey, it's been over 10 years?
I think it's both. I mean, I think, like when I got to the point where I was sort of like, just didn't think we were going to make records anymore, it wasn't like, oh, okay. Like there was a grieving process for that. Like I was giving up something that was important to me. And that I, was like, oh, there's something, I don't think we hadn't attained what I wanted us to attain. And so you kind of have to sort of say goodbye to that dream in a way. So for me personally, there was a grieving process to that. And so you'd have days where you're like, yeah, it's fine. We don't need to do it. And then you'd have days where you're like, I can't believe I'm not going to make records with these guys anymore. It's like, you go through so many different things with it until you get to the place where you're genuinely okay with it.
Did you have the same thought process, Rob?
I mean, I knew that we were always going to be a band that played live together. We enjoy it. We have a great time doing it. And that was always going to be something that was on the table for us. And there's a lot of bands that have that kind of, that career at some point. I had always been, I was always in the studio or on the road, or in the studio on the road, back with Matchbox and Solo. So I was busy. But I think it was like when we went out, even without making a record, went out in 2017, you just know that it's always a part of everything, just because it's just an itch that you can't scratch without the four of us playing music together and playing these songs. Like I remember like that whole time having the best time I've ever had in my entire life, like all through like the Scotland show, you know what I mean? Like I was playing the Forum, like there were just certain nights that were just like, oh, this feels great. It wasn't until I didn't know going into this record, I wasn't sure yet, like how I was going to fare, like if I was going to feel about it, like there's a certain amount of autonomy personally and creatively that you have when you're working solo. And I was like, okay, well, I've got to put that to the side, which means setting your ego and your kind of tunnel vision on something aside and giving it over to the collective. But then when the collective just started doing better things with what we were doing than I would do alone, then it's way easy to trust the collective. And then it feels like a weight off. When you're like, oh, thank God. Like, all right, take that, Paul. Like, Paul just brought in 4 great songs. Like, then I feel fucking awesome about it.
Well, was it a very quick, I guess, gap between should we make an album? And then once you started getting into the studio and writing stuff, was it like after song number 2 where you're like, oh shit, there's an album here?
I mean, if you look at it from a bird's eye view, it's really not that much time to think about. Like we started working on the record, like realistically, we started maybe like seriously working on the record maybe in December. Am I right?
Yeah, and we have self-imposed breaks. Like there were longer breaks than normal in between hitting. They were hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it, like we probably could have gotten done a little quicker, but maybe not, because during those periods, those were periods of reflection where we could listen to the stuff that we were working on, fine tune it the way we wanted to, maybe dismiss it or find something better, make the song better itself. Like we had that kind of period to do it. So I think we gave ourselves just enough time. But in the grand scheme of things, like, we've made records that have taken a lot longer.
Right.
I mean, a lot longer.
Process.
We work on them every day.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's the process of, we're going to make a record, we're setting up to make a record, we're going to leave on this date. Like the process of when we decide to make a record to when we finish that record is a really long period of time. So in that frame, this record came about very quickly. It went from my perspective of, I'm never going to make a record with these guys again, to I'm flying to New York to make a record with these guys.
Yeah.
I also feel like there's something to be said about when we, like, you imagine, like, we go into a studio and you're burning through money in a studio and you're there for this purpose. And because of that, there's an immediacy to everything that you're doing. And you write this song and you record this song, and you write this song and you record this song. And you're more likely in that situation, I found now especially, to look back and be like, man, I love this and this and this, and I wish you would have done that differently, or I wish this song would have been on there, or I wish we had put this song instead of that song. And I got to say, on this record, because of the way that we did it, and I don't think it could have been done, I wouldn't feel this way if we'd done it the other way. I listened to it and I'm just like, I can't imagine any song that's on this record not being on this record. And there's nothing else that we were working on that I wish had taken the place of anything. Like, I listened to this record all the way through. Like, I've called Paul more than once and just been like, dude, just all the way through. This record.
I mean, I've only had the album in my hands for like 2 days, but it's the exact same thing. I just listened to it all the way through and I was like, oh shit, it's already done. Let's go again. And I think I've like, even today is like 4 times straight through. It's just such a good listen. Yeah. I know I can't like give you like a critical opinion, but that's it. It's just really fucking good.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. I mean, and it's nice to hear. Not a lot of people have heard it yet, so it's nice to.
Well, I feel like you guys are like a model for other bands, because for so long now, you guys have dipped out into solo work, side bands, scoring, Paul, in your case. For a lot of bands, as history tells us, the word side project can be a dirty word, and it can throw spanners into a band and it can lead to breakups. What's the secret for you guys? How have you all managed to come together in this beast that is Matchbox 20, but you can dip out and do your own things and put egos aside, and everyone loves and supports it?
Well, I mean, I think full disclosure, there are times when, like, like if I'm away and I'm touring and we're doing something, it's a fucking bummer to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's there's a magnanimous sense to everybody in the band for what they're willing to put up with. You know what I mean? And I'm aware of that at times. That's it's not like there's not sometimes inner turmoil about making those schedules work. And sometimes I'm definitely the heavy on why, we can't do this or we can't do that. But I do think that a genuine friendship helps get over that.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. At the heart of it, there's a deep love between us. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, Rob and I are we're ride or die. So whether we have Matchbox or not, and Rob and I have also been in periods of time where we did not speak to each other. But we both know we're ride or die. So it's sort of like, yes, he's mad at me. Yes, I'm mad at him. This is going to last for a minute, and then we'll get over it. But I think because of that, we also have like an ability to sort of get past those things pretty quickly. And I think as we've gotten older, and as, like, at least for me personally, when I say that, like, I didn't think we were going to make records again, and I really was genuinely okay with it, because I really decided, I was like, well, I need to do my own thing. I need to sort of find my own way in the world opposite this. And I started to, and I started to sort of understand more what Rob was talking about. I get it, because I was like, oh yeah, this is as important to me as Matchbox is. My scoring career is becoming more and more important to me. Without a doubt, my home life is the most important thing to me. Being a father is the most important thing to me. Being home for, to see my kid go through different phases of life, like, that's the most important thing to me. And so I started to kind of have an empathy for what Rob was dealing with, because he had things that, as important as Matchbox is to us, is equally as important to him. And I get that. I understand that. And yes, sometimes that's incredibly hard in in a life sort of way, and you're just like, wow, it's been 6 years and we haven't done anything, and it's like, so that gets hard. But I definitely, as we've gotten older, I definitely understand it more.
Is it safe to say, and I know this is funny to say out loud, granted you guys are going on a 50+ date US tour, but are the days of, being away for 2-3 years at a time away from your families and doing the tour life, are they long behind you, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think that they are for us. I mean, it's interesting. Like, my kid's going to college, so like I'm about to empty nest. So
congratulations.
Thanks.
Is that a good thing? Sad thing? Both?
It's both. I'm excited to get their life going, but I'm also like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. Yeah. So, and I think every parent goes through that. But it also changes my thing, because I no longer have to be here because my kid has a school play, or like, so like, there's that I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I do know that I think all of us have gotten to a point where we understand what Matchbox means to us, and it means a tremendous amount, but it doesn't mean everything. And that we've been able to do this for almost 30 years of making it work in whatever unorthodox way it has been from an outside point of view. It does seem to work for us. We're still here. We just made a record. We have a song on the charts, like, and we're in our 50s. Like, so something's working. So.
And we genuinely get along, which is a lot to say. And that is a secret sauce. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the absences make the heart grow fonder, like, because we don't see each other, and we're genuinely excited to see each other again and catch up. And, and it's a hard thing to corral us sometimes. Like, if you get us all for an interview, we're just laughing so hard and trying to make the other person laugh so hard that, like, it's almost like you're looking at children again. Like, you're just working with children, just, being like, we get to be kids again. We get to play music.
Yeah. It's funny now, again, that 10 years since the last album. How have things changed for you guys, not only in the recording concept of an album, but the importance, quote unquote, of something like TikTok? Like, bands and artists being told,
oh my God, it's everything.
You need to, it's everything. But not only that, like, it almost has like a second life online. Like, I see now 15-year-olds who are declaring songs like 3 AM or Unwell, or Rob, in your case, Smooth, is like the greatest song that has ever been recorded. And I'm like, you're fucking 12. How do you even know this?
Yeah.
Do you guys see that? Like, this crazy resurgence?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's been a few cases now of songs that were like, well, that song was actually released like 6 years ago. Now it's climbing the charts because of TikTok. So in that sense, it's great, because there are songs that, like, it might end up being an album track that you never thought would have a life, and then all of a sudden it's like 10 years later, this song is getting some sort of attention, so it's great in that aspect. It's definitely an adjustment. Like, when you're our age, I don't know that you necessarily want to be looking into a camera and being like like, hey, look at me, I'm the guy. Like, I'm just like,
yeah, you'll never hear me go, this is your boy, Rob.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I just wanted to get together and talk to you about, like, that doesn't seem like a thing that I want to do. But at the same time, you have it, being able to have a connection with people, an instant connection with people who really genuinely like what you do, that's kind of cool. So it's double.
The opportunity of what fans can do with it to elevate music and the music that they love excites me a lot more than the obligation as an artist that you feel having to feed into it. Especially I'm of an age where when Twitter came out, that kind of made sense to me. Musings, I know musings, I can do that, And then even Instagram, like, there was an aesthetic there. I get that, look, these are beautiful pictures, and these are like some pictures of my life. And a lot of us were looking for ways to share pictures that we loved, that's a cool thing to do. And then I think there was just something in the DNA where I was just like, oh, this is, I might be a little too old for this. As far as participating at a certain level in the game of TikTok. I think now it's like, there are people that we had that were shooting some content, but that is fly on the wall material of like, hey, by the way, this is what we're doing, and we'll use this as an outlet for you to see what we're doing, but we're not going to show you a special dance because we're on TikTok.
Can you please
it's
do a special
interesting
dance? Please.
we're just finishing up the video for Wild Dogs.
Yeah.
And it is interesting how that's changed, because we obviously haven't done anything like that in a bit. It's been a minute. And the conversations that you have prior to that do revolve around TikTok and revolve around short-term consumption of things. So it's like you used to talk about, like, I mean, the days of Guns N' Roses making a 17-minute video for November Rain. That shit ain't happening no more.
Yeah.
Like, now it's like, well, we need 30 seconds.
Yeah.
What's the best 30 seconds of this video? And that goes into the creative process. You actually are incorporating that into what you're trying to make. And so it actually adds like kind of an interesting challenge, because you still, we're old school, and we like a record. We like a long form video. We like having a beginning and an end. And so being able to now do that in a way where you're just like, but how can this also work like this? It brings an interesting challenge.
And still have some sort of an emotional weight to it. Like you're trying to tell the story in smaller vignettes, but you're still trying to get a story to be told, even if it's just, there's something about the way that this makes you feel that connects you with the way that we want you to feel when you hear this song.
Yeah.
Which I think has honestly never been more important than just making people feel something. Like I'm way more interested in how people feel about something than what necessarily they think about something. Yeah. As far as something I'm trying to make. Like, I want people to feel something. Whatever that is. Even if it's like, oh, I hate this. This is disgust. Great, you felt something. Awesome. Mission accomplished. Not the feeling I wanted, but whatever.
That honestly, like, just sums up what I feel about this album, though. I obviously I think good of it, but like, it was more a feeling, listening to it and just being like, this makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy. And there's no, to the point of like how convoluted and complex the industry is in 2023. It's just a really good fucking record with a great bunch of songs. Listen to it and you'll like it. That's like surely just a very simple template that we should all subscribe to.
You should do the commercial.
I'll do your music video. It's fine.
This is a really good record. Listen to it and you'll like it.
Isn't that fucked up though? That's a weird thing to say. Like, it's a really good record. You should listen to it. It's like, that's not good enough. Where's the dancing? Where's the moves?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you do have to jump up and down for attention more, because I mean, it's a much more crowded space, realistically. So anyone can put out a song now, anybody, and anyone can make a song on their phone and have it out in 5 seconds, and that's a lot of stuff. So it is sort of, and we're so quick. Everything is just like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And sometimes like, you have to sit with something for a minute to kind of get it. And I think some of this record is that. I think some of this record is you're going to have to listen to it a couple times to sort of kind of, and let it sit for a minute to get what we're trying to do with it. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it is a harder thing to do in this day and age. Yeah.
And I mean, I know this is like the worst douchebag question of the entire podcast, so I apologize. Granted, the album isn't out, and what's that?
You need a graphic for that. Question.
Yep. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be great. Right. Again, I've only listened to the album a few times through now, and it's not even out yet as we record this. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you look at it, people will call this the comeback album for Matchbox. Where does this album sit in the catalog for you guys? When you think of all the work you've done, where does this album fit into the Matchbox story?
Oh, it's the 6th one.
Good. Nailed it.
Yeah.
5.5.
I mean, I think every record we made is the natural record we should have made at the age and time that we were in.
Okay.
Realistically, I mean, Yourself or Someone Like You was the best we could do at that time. And that's where our interest was. And that's what we were surrounded by and what we were trying to do. And then Mad Season was different because we were exposed to more and we had more money and we could make a bigger record and we can spend more money on a record. And so these factors go in. This record is a record that we made after not making a record for a long time, after being on our own and finding out who we are outside of each other and how we work outside of each other and where we are as people and what we're sort of interested in doing in life. Like, honestly, I don't want to make yourself or someone like you at 50. I made that record at 23, and that's who I don't want to make a record like I made when I was 23. I don't think any of us do. We want to make a record that feels like what we would say now. And I think that's what this is. And they're all, I would have that same answer for every single one.
Yeah. What was that? Is that your ringtone?
Where did
I needed a second listen on that. I was like, what is that noise?
What's funny is I'm like, Paul's giving this thoughtful answer, and I'm low key here searching for a button that says douchebag.
where do you find a douchebag button?
I have an app with just a bunch of buttons, and I knew one would say douchebag.
What app is that? I'll use it. I'll use it on the actual official
It's
video.
the buttons.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'll make sure I make a note of that. Before we wrap up, guys, I do want to ask, obviously I am in New York, but I am Australian. If the US tour goes off without a hitch and the album does what I think it will do, international dates on
I'll
the
stop you right
cards?
there. I'm allowed to say that we are going to be next year. We will be hitting boots on the ground in Australia. We haven't announced the dates. We're not really sure yet, but I'm allowed to say that we will be boots on the ground next year in Australia.
Oh, that's exciting.
Australia is a really big deal to us. We love it there. It's like another, it's become like a second home in so many ways.
We're bringing some good friends.
Oh yes, are we? Is that going to happen? I didn't know if that was allowed. If we knew that's going to happen again.
I'm not going to say who it is, but yes, that is happening.
Oh my God, it's going to be so fucking good.
I'm going to ask as soon as we stop recording, though. Is that allowed?
Sure. Yeah.
I promise I won't put it on. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, congratulations on this album. When you do the whole reel of reviews of the album, like Rolling Stone, 5 stars, just say, Neil, really fucking liked it. That's it. That's all I've got for you.
That is going to happen now. That is so genius.
Yes.
Guys, again, congratulations. I'm so excited for people to hear this album. I'm so excited to get you guys back on the road. I'll see you in New York and hopefully in Australia next year as well. But otherwise, good luck with the release, guys.
Thanks,
Neil.
Neil.
Appreciate it.